to where we are presently, going and moving. Yes, I am the commissioner for the MLK Junior, where I'm wearing my actual official badge
Nice
today.
medallion there.
Yes, I was appointed by our present governor, Governor Asa Hutchins, last year to serve on this commission for the MLK Junior Commission for the state of Arkansas, and what a humble experience it has been, where our director, state director, is Dr. Deshaun Scarborough, who is our Arkansas director. And boy, he has some great things going on since I've been a part of this board. I must admit, there's 75 counties at large that makes up this great state of Arkansas, and we're talking probably 3 million people. And so when you think about what kind of impact that we're making, boy, I must admit, it's been a wonderful journey. Now, believe it or not, in reference to tomorrow, in commemorating the life of Dr. King tomorrow, we have approximately 9,000 youth that have been targeted here in the state of Arkansas, there in Little Rock, Arkansas, that will begin tomorrow at 8 a.m. till 3. Now, Dr. Adams, now, I don't know how you would look at me, but our keynote presenter tomorrow is Master P himself. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with Master P, but Master P, boy, he's one of the gurus. Who literally started out as a rapper, but now he's a business entrepreneur, a man that have made many milestones and accomplishments that I think, what a role model. So we'll be speaking tomorrow, approximately targeted 9,000 youth across this state, where he will be our keynote speaker, speaking on behalf of our nonviolence. He's going to be speaking positive into their lives, and what an honor that we will actually be a part of that. In January, that just passed, celebrating his birthday, we actually was honored to be in the governor's mansion. Governor Asa hosted our commission for MLK birthday celebration. We actually had our governor, which is also our former governor, Governor Mike Huckabee. Governor Mike Huckabee is one that actually placed in position this commission. And so he was the one that took his conception. He actually put this in place and chartered us here in the state of Arkansas. He was our keynote speaker that presented us there, celebrating the celebration of Dr. King. And I must admit, what an historical moment that we had Governor Asa, as well as Governor Mike Huckabee, as well as his daughter, quite naturally, who's actually has made her own entry and her own way into this state as the ticket and the actual voice for candidacy for our governor of the state of Arkansas. So it's a wonderful opportunity that you're hosting today, and hopefully we can share with the people what's really going on in the state of Arkansas, especially in District 34.
Okay, you touched on some subjects, and thank you for bringing us up, and you enlightened us on how the commission was inaugurated. Of course, it is a state commission, and it's my understanding that it is under the auspices of the Arkansas Department of Education, which means that you're nonpartisan in what you present to the citizens of this state. And there's something that happened at MLK 50, since you talked about Governor Mike Huckabee. Also, what happened with MLK 50 in Little Rock?
Oh, wow. Thank you. One of the greatest things that actually happened under this 93rd General Assembly, under our president, Governor Asa Hutchins, who actually not only did he celebrate, but he actually separated the birthday of MLK, and actually gave him an opportunity that we in the state of Arkansas, out of the 50 states, we became the 48th state to celebrate Dr. MLK and having this day celebrated by itself where he had in the past had joined and had served in the same celebration month. But his day was celebrated there for the 50th year. And I must admit, I think our present governor, Asa Hutchins, and the 93rd General Assembly for making Dr. MLK birthday a special and a celebrated day in the state of Arkansas.
And if I can remember, Commissioner Tobar, you presented the governor with an MLK 50 jacket, which he wore at the Capitol and put it on and displayed it as a token of showing that the citizens of Arkansas had come together to commemorate such a magnanimous occasion.
Oh, absolutely. Matter of fact, Dr. Adams, thank you. Thank you for joining. Actually, you were able to join me that day. What a historical moment. What a historical moment, because you're right. There was a jacket, B Manufacturing, who actually presented that jacket. We had that jacket manufactured custom for our governor, because we felt like it was something to be a day of commemorating and cementing his leadership and his ability to show that because of the mere fact that Dr. King was not one who was an advocate for party, but he was an advocate for people. And because of him being an advocate for people, he crossed all lines, race, color, party lines as well. And I'm very thankful that our governor, I was kind of nervous that day, because what Governor Asa Hutchins didn't remember, that he didn't realize we actually got his measurements. We called to get his measurements. So when we actually had him to try his jacket on, he knew he wasn't aware that he was going to get a present that day. So when he put the jacket on, I remember him sliding in. He says, "Oh, the arm reach, it actually is a custom for me." So he was excited that day, because normally
He's rather tall.
very tall, his length of arms, and because that jacket was custom to fit him. And I must admit, when he opened and realized that the inside was silk red, and of course we placed it in the jacket as a commemorating of those, of the commitments, of the blood that was shed for those that gave their life in the struggle. I must admit that was our intent. But of course, when Governor Asa Hutchins, when he saw the red, he said, "Razorback red." So then we began to say, "Razorback red, Razorback red."
Outstanding.
So yeah, what a day that it was a fulfillment for the great state of Arkansas. And I must commend again, thank Governor Asa Hutchins and the 93rd General Assembly that made that day one of the most milestone days in the great state of Arkansas.
No doubt about it, and it shows solidarity among people of all colors, races, creed, and not only that, but political persuasions, because at that celebration, there were independents, there were Democrats, there were Republicans, there were men, there were women, there were children, so the whole gamut of representation was right there on that MLK Capitol steps on that day. So that's something that we certainly can take forward with us and say that Arkansas is moving progressively forward on behalf of all of its citizens.
Dr. Adams, and must I add, the photographer, Dwayne Mays, my campaign manager, along with you, had an opportunity, when I recall now, that the photographer, that actually the father, the son of the photographer, who was the photographer who actually allowed time to be captured there in Memphis throughout Dr. King's era. He was the leading photographer at that moment. And boy, to say 50 years later, his son, who was willing to travel with us.
I think was it Hooks?
And he got a chance to travel with us and the son of the photographer who made it very clear that his father had made a major commitment, and he actually was using some of the cameras to make it more of a commemorating day. He took a lot of photos, and I was very touched that we were still touching the piece of history.
Right.
Very fortunate through the lens as well as the blood that connected that unification era of 50 years ago. What a historical moment.
Right, right. Now you're talking about some things that went on and with Governor Hutchinson, as well as other members of the Civil Rights Commission. My question to you is that, are you working alone? I understand, and we know that you're a candidate for District 34 House seat. Are you working alone? Are you the Lone Ranger of District 34? How do you perceive your platform and your candidacy first, as well as your platform?
Well, when you talk about my ability, as far as I've never had to travel alone, I've never had to be alone in this journey, and I must start by simply saying I thank God that God has always been with me, and I must admit that there has been some probably moments in my life that when it comes down to a crowd, a visible crowd, I think that it may have been small, it may have been one or two that traveled, and I must admit that Mr. Dwayne Mays, dear friend and close friend of mine, who has traveled with me both far and near, 95% of my travel, not only has he accompanied me, but he actually drove. So he helped to make sure that I never travel alone, but I have a great team that has always centered around me, who has not always been in the front, but they've been in the back, working in the trenches, working for information that I would need to make me appear as though I'm smart at all given times, getting information. Like Robert Mallage, I must admit, Robert Mallage, I don't know if Robert watching live right now, but Robert Mallage, who that I must admit was a John C. Maxwell certified speaker. Robert Mallage and I go back a lifetime. I trust when he and I speak and when we get a chance to talk as we travel in the landscape of the district. Robert was the one that was able to point out with me as we traveled the actual landscape of our district. He said, boy, this is a lot of agriculture. And I said, oh, absolutely. It was Robert that said, you know, Mr. Tobar, he says, understanding your platform with agriculture, he said, I think that'd be a great idea for us to continue to push and make aware of our farmers, which is where we coined the phrase from one of our famous quotes that we coined in the beginning. There comes a day that you will need a doctor, a lawyer, or a preacher in your lifetime, but every day, 3 times a day, you will need a farmer. When we talk about the platform, we talk about the alliance of information that are Dr. Lee Adams, who would, in the background, always working in the background with information that will give us the ability to articulate, talking to different individuals behind the scene that will give me a story about Miss Jan or Miss Aldridge there in Blytheville, Arkansas, who would tell me about the Jan story. Oftentimes, when I listen to them, they help me to create and curtail and create a message. Sometimes my language, I've been told that my ability to articulate at times can lose people, whether it's fluid to me. Sometimes they say keep it simple. So when we begin to talk about the simplicity, Dr. Adams, I had a conversation with you as I was traveling after getting off the phone with Miss Donna Aldridge, how she shared with me the story and brought tears to my eyes about the young lady who was less fortunate, who did not quite have the education, who had several children, who did not have the ability to work, but yet was wanting a job, wanting to provide for her family. And so as Miss Donna began to talk to me and I told her I would not forget the story, I remember calling you and I says, Dr. Adams, I want to keep things simple. Can you help me to keep things simple because it's too complex? Because when we talk about the river, we talk about the railroad, we talk about the interstate, we talk about the airport, all transportation, but where is that really relevant when it comes down to the landscape of our district? And as you and I began to talk about it, I said, I want it simple that kids can understand it. And I said, like A, B, C, D, let's keep it alphabetically.
Mhm.
And I said, A, you said agriculture. B, you said business. C, community. D, development. E, for education. And I says, I was driving to you. And I says, document that, write that down. I feel this in my spirit. This is the landscape. This is the area that I've identified for the last several years that I've been traveling in this state, understanding the landscape. So that's how I was able to piggyback ride and to look at the lens of what it really is with individuals that surround me and surrounds me, that gives me information. I must admit, having guys like a brother, like a Tommy behind the scenes. A lot of people don't realize this when you talk about being by yourself. It means a lot when you have family.
That's right.
A brother like him that he's never on the front, he never makes loud noise, but boy, I must admit, Dr. Adam, he has never let me
Very
down.
strong supporter.
Oh my God.
No doubt about it.
Oh, every meeting whether he's physically there, I must admit, he's financially present, making sure that a lot of things go on. As a brother, my oldest brother, second oldest, and I really must admit, he's taken on the leadership as, to me, the paramount in my family. So those connections where you talk about a James Lowry, the city councilman there in Turl, Arkansas.
Mhm.
It's kind of give you an idea of what this makeup when you think about I never traveled alone. Someone that he and I go back since our elementary school days, but I must admit, I must say, even though we consider ourselves friends, he's truly a brother. The kind of guy that when he talks, he almost makes me feel like I can fly.
Okay.
Once I sit with him, no matter what I discuss,
Mhm.
he has the ability to sit, listen, and critique. And yet, from afar or near, I've always been able to embrace him with his leadership. Again, standing behind the scenes. The list goes on. We even talk about a present guy that looks like he comes out of nowhere with a Superman cape on. His name is Lucas, or Stephen Lucas, who comes out and reassures us that we were trying to get not only this 78-foot trailer, cotton trailer to reflect as a reflection of our farmers, but yet we would use it as a mobile, turn it into a mobile site, turn it into a platform that we can speak. He, along with Nate Smith, would help me get that 78-foot trailer and paint it and prime it and place the actual tools and the lighting and the sound that has the ability that I can talk to hundreds and thousands from that. So when you talk about me traveling and having been blessed, having so many blessings, that is actually behind the scenes that works with me very close, I'm very thankful. So no, I don't travel alone, even though it might appear that there's one or two, but there's an army that's actually backing me. You talk about in Mr. Maurice Gaines, that hardly no one talks or sees, have coffee sips at maybe 11 p.m. or 1 a.m. in the morning, sharing information that will syndicate to me that he comes with a thought that reassures me that the information and the data that needs to be close. So Dr. Adams, I can go on and on when you talk about being my travel. Thank you.
Okay, that's wonderful. That's wonderful, and I appreciate you sharing those very close, intimate friends and associates. I did hear you say something in your dissertation. It was about the fact that you appreciate the farmers, but you also told us about Miss Donna Aldrich and the story. And what I want to do is try to link that together, because I know people have to eat. Even though this is an agricultural community, the Delta of Arkansas, yet there are people in our beloved community who are like the lady, who don't have the means, who don't have the education, don't have the skills, but yet have the willingness and want to be contributing members of this Mississippi County Society, as well as the city, paying taxes and doing the thing that other citizens do.
You absolutely
What can we do? Is there anything that's in the pipeline that's coming up as a candidate who is championing economics and business?
So when you think about it, Dr. Adams, for so many that are watching me now, you talk about our farmers, but when the pandemic hit, we all were impacted. I mean, everyone's at work were impacted. I mean, it didn't matter whether you was red, yellow, black, white, rich, poor, educated, non-educated. It really didn't matter where you were. If you were in the United States of America, you were impacted by COVID. And one of the great things that I must admit that a lot of people don't realize that our former president, President Donald Trump, after the borders were closed in the United States of America, he initiated a program, Feed America. And through that Feed America program, it was initiated because of our farmers. Our farmers, because of their crops could not go out, be exported. So a lot of the crops that we were getting were, they were not going to be destroyed, and they didn't know what to do. So they initiated a program that you were even going to be able to take that food, take the grains, everything that the farmers had, be within that most pandemic time of our history. So I was very fortunate to partner a team where Team Tobar 55 then was known, which is presently now Team 34 because of our district has been changed through our redistricting. But our team were able to champion for 6.5 months, 780,000 pounds of food that we distributed 780,000 pounds of food over 6.5 months that we were able to serve not only our district, but we were able to serve throughout the state, Arkansas, Mississippi, Missouri, as well as Tennessee. So we utilized our opportunity to reassure that we are not party driven, even though I know there's a lot of people that say that I'm a Republican and they try to label it as something, a bad label.
In other words, they connect you to the national scene, whereas you're working on the local scene and you're working for people, and hunger has no political undertones.
No, sir, and definitely not considered by a party. So I wanted to show, because we're people driven, and I must admit, for those that are watching me, what an honor. I want to thank the fire departments, the police departments, the volunteers, Every day, the pastors, everywhere we went, Dr. Adams, when we organized, we wanted to show community. And I know that they were trying to do it as a political. This wasn't politics. No, we were hurting. America was hurting. And I wanted to do something to show you that I'm not a party-driven person. And if anyone understands about Republicans, we should be, and what I've gathered, we're the champions for humanity. So when we deal with humanity, we don't worry about what race, what color, what party you are affiliated. It's just like the same lens of God. God sees everybody the same. And I hope and pray that those that are watching me live, Blytheville, Arkansas, Amarillo, Gosnell, Dale, Burdett, Victoria, Osceola, Lovejoy, Wilson, Bassett, Joyner, Frenchman, Birdsummer, Gilmore, all of those communities, every time we came, we were assisted every week, no matter where we went during that pandemic moment. We had volunteers. Someone asked the question, how much were we getting paid? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they was asking how much, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, right, worth of product that was in my hands. And every time that truck, we had got so to the point where the organizational side of us, you talk about starting with companies with the Stranger Brothers. I want to give a special recognition to the Stranger Brothers, where they were the first one that laid out. And I want to, the driver that came and the big major boom machine that was helping us to assist us, making sure that it was an initiating process. Because I must admit, Dr. Adams, when we first started out there in Gilmore, Arkansas, we didn't have anything but arms, legs, and elbows. And we had the Mayor Delaney and Mr. Darrell Jackson and Wayne, group of us, we were working with our arms, Mr. Coleman, there in Turtle, Arkansas, yes, James Lowry. Those guys, we didn't have any machinery. And those guys was physically, you're talking 1,000 boxes at 25 pounds. Each box was 25 pounds, and there was 1,000 boxes on pallets from the front of that trailer all the way to the back. Mm-hmm. And they were literally, physically helping me to handle that and getting that product in a secured place and positioned for the people. And those are the champions. Those are the unsung heroes. They weren't looking for a pat on the back, but they got it and rolled their sleeves up. And I want to say thank you, because I haven't been on actually since that moment of 2020, because those are the moments that reflected me now to think about all the love and the kindness, even from our state trooper. We had state troopers that volunteered to escort us in and out of the areas. The county sheriff department that committed. Sheriff Dale Cook, thank you. So many that when I say partnered, we could not have did any of that without the support of both local and county leaders, stakeholders, owners that gave of their ability, spaces and utilization that they had. And I personally want to say today, thank you, because I didn't get a chance to commend and thank everyone. But that is some of the most memorable moments that I have witnessed and engaged. I saw one district, I saw one Arkansas, I saw one people, one love. Again, I didn't see Democrats saying I'm a Democrat. I'm over here waving. I didn't see a person say I'm a Republican over here and I need this. No. I didn't see any of that battling back and forth. What we saw was one Arkansas. And that's what made me continue to say, if we don't do anything else, I want us to remain as what Dr. King, unification, an organizer, someone who did not look at color or race, but he saw equality and justice for all. And when we serve people, if we can do what the greatest song has always said, if I can help somebody as I travel along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or a song, if I can even show a traveler that he's traveling wrong, then my living shall not be in vain.
Well said, well said. And you've touched on the agricultural spectrum. And so as we move forward, I would like, before we close out, because I want our viewing audience to know this will not be the last time that we come on. We want to bring to you on a weekly basis some other aspects of Commissioner Tobar's life and his public service. But one of the things that I do want to touch on is him being an advocate for business. And if you would touch on that, I would certainly appreciate it.
Well, Dr. Adams, thank you again. I've been humbled. I shared a story just yesterday, how very blessed and fortunate that I am. I've had the privilege of working in various businesses, various jobs, and boy, have they been good to me. They let me stay more than a day. I don't think I was worth the pay, but they allowed me to work for them. And boy, I tried to act like I appreciate the pay, right? And they always overpaid me. But understanding business, it's good business.
Mm-hmm.
I understand what good business is, no matter where you are, no matter who's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you talk about good business, oh, it's a win-win scenario. You know, I'm very humble to say I started business over 20 plus years ago. I left some of the greatest Fortune 500 companies where I was privileged to work. And I decided to go into business for myself. Boy, what a humbling experience. And I must admit, I remember leaving my $100,000+ last job that I worked in the public. And I got my first contract in my business. And Dr. Adams, I made $500 a month. A month. And I must admit,
What a windfall.
oh my God. And I must admit, Mr. Lowry, I know he's probably watching me, but we went out to a famous restaurant for a dinner to toast that night. And I will never forget the meal cost more than what I had made the month. And but I said to him, we had a cheers and we said, tonight, it's this amount, but it's the start. And one thing I can say about the American dream, one thing I can say about anyone that is watching me live, it really doesn't matter where you live. It really doesn't matter where you come from. If you have a dream and a vision and a desire to start your own business, as we always say, pull your own bootstraps up and start to going and thriving for your dream, I can honestly tell you from firsthand experience, you can live your dream. Dr. Adams, when I started, I promise you, I started out with one small contract at $500 a month. But I must admit, several years later, 5 different states, 181 sites, that my name, Tobar, went backwards. Raybon Incorporation now has been able to privilege and be able to serve some of the greatest and fine businesses across the state. I've had that privilege. And I understand that when I talk about business, I know if you're small or large, when you have this kind of ability, people love good service. They love good goods. So if you have a goods or a service, a way of providing, why don't you start it? Don't worry about how small it is. Do your best. And no matter how it looks, I promise you, if you're doing something that you love, that you're doing, someone else is going to appreciate it. And yes, the value of that oftentimes is greater than sometimes you can ever put a price tag on. So when you talk about business, I've been working along my guidelines when I actually filed just in 2020. For those that probably remember that, one of the largest names, household names, that I must admit that when I filed in 2020, you all remember the former candidacy for the president. His name was Mike Bloomberg. And boy, I got a chance to meet Mike in person. He wanted to talk to me. I think he thought I was someone else, but he was determined. Dwayne was telling me, Mr. Tobar, Mike Bloomberg is trying to get your attention. And I was saying, he doesn't know who I am. And he kept saying to me, Mr. Tobar, and sure enough, that was Mike Bloomberg pointing and directing me to him. And at the end of the conversation, I must admit, Mr. Mike did not speak to anybody but the news media. But he had a privilege and he wanted to talk to me. After talking to me in such a very personal way, I must admit, he encouraged me and he inspired me. And even though I welcomed him, even though our governor was in China at the time, I welcomed him to the great state of Arkansas, wondering how in the world, out of all the 50 states, would he come to one of the smallest yet richest states in America. And he shared it was a day of opportunity that he wanted to file and throw his name in the hat. As he and I talked about it, he said that he felt like that I had done some great milestones in my business. But I must admit to him, Dr. Adams, I said I hadn't made my billion. And boy, Mike leaned back and said, when I got to 57 billion, I stopped counting. Boy, I often say it, Mike, thank you for giving me an opportunity, personal moments that I must admit, doing business, when I understand that business is very good in our district. Matter of fact, tomorrow, in our community, in our district, we're actually getting ready to have a personal meeting that is going to make some great changes, doing some development that I've been working with a company called Chime Solution. Chime Solution is a telemarketing, one of the second largest actually telemarketing in the United States. We're very privileged to be able to sit at the table. We're going to be having disclosed moments, talking about them coming to Arkansas, to District 34, over 900 jobs, where we'll be discussing how we can create jobs in our community, in the state of Arkansas. I say it again, Dr. Adams, this is fresh information. Chime Solution, we will be talking with our stakeholders, not only from our local county government, but also our economic development from the state of Arkansas, sitting in that private section where we'll be talking, engaging on how we can bring jobs, that how we can fit the landscape right where we are. Dr. Adams, when you talk about business, oftentimes we see businesses that come into an area and, we have to try to outfit for them. But we're talking about bringing jobs that they are the outfit for the people that are already there. Isn't that amazing?
Yes, sir.
We talk about jobs and creating jobs. Oftentimes we say, these major jobs are coming. A lot of times our people are not prepared. They're not trained. And sometimes, yes, they don't have the education. They don't have the degree. And oftentimes they're looked over. They're picked over. And other people that come in our community, they get those $100,000+ jobs. And that money doesn't stay in our county. It doesn't stay in our community. And boy, it doesn't oftentimes stay in the state. They go away and they'll buy a trailer. They might rent an apartment. And then they'll drive when they possibly 3 days on, 4 days off, they'll go back and spend their money where they've purchased nice homes. Children are not in the school district. Those tax dollars are not staying. But yet we have so many hundreds and thousands of people that's sitting right less than 5 minutes away, 10 minutes away from these wonderful, high-paying jobs, and they're not the recipient. So what we decided to do, during my ability to work, how we can help sit down at the table and talk about and bring in businesses that we can identify the climate, identify, no, you may not can work at a steel mill because it's going to take maybe 18 months. It might take 2 years. It might take 3 years, and all of that in the past. But when we talk about identifying now, where Arkansas, Eastern College has partnered there in the steel industry, where they can put a program and have identified right there in Blythe that an individual can go within 9 months, Dr. Adams. Senator Boozman came and I had an opportunity. He called for Dwayne and myself to be a part of that, to walk with Dr. Shinwell there. And they spent a couple of hours that day on that campus, identifying how an individual can go to that facilities, and within about 9 months of training, they can get the tools and automatically be able to connect and go into that program and go into the steel industry. And you're talking 70 plus $60,000-$70,000 entry. Wow. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. Isn't that amazing? So when we talk about understanding the landscape of District 34, I understand that it is time for us to be more focusing on the people. I consider it a low-hanging fruit opportunity. See, it's easy for you and I to look at and identify the demographics, but if you can continue to bring businesses that has not identified the demographics to say, how can we better fit the needs of that community? Then we're going to continue to get more people that who do not live in the community. Dr. Adams, there in the south end of the state of Arkansas, there's a company, they're working in this turtle area, over 1,900 acres. They're building a solar power system. They're in Turtle, right there, that Turtle exit, down at that Turtle, Highway 42. Oh my God, you're talking about over 1,900 acres that they're putting in a solar power system. And I must admit, I had a privilege of traveling and getting on my buggy and getting on the four-wheeler and traveling with the managers down there. And Dr. Adams, I said, oh my goodness, I was having fun. It was actually, I'm gonna be real with you, it was a lot of fun. I was riding on four-wheelers and these tractor things, and they let that mud splash up on me because of that weather. It's all open, right? And you could see the work, what was literally taking place. And they're going to be in that area for over a year plus, putting up over 1,200 jobs down in that community, creating an opportunity just about 15 miles to Marion. I don't know if you're familiar with Marion, but they're going to be also making that exit about 2 years down the window. They're going to be going right down to Marion, Arkansas, creating the same opportunity. I think there's about 1,200 acres that they're going to put in another power solar system. So when you talk about, again, which goes back to farmers, stakeholders, understanding there's more to a farmer than just driving a tractor. There's more to farming than what we think about just soybeans and cotton. You're talking about innovating. Man, you're talking about some of the greatest defines of our society of living. The quality of life has derived from farming. So when we talk about business, I understand that this is something that I would like to continue to serve, would like to continue to work with the landscape of our district throughout the state, because whether you're small or large, I promise you, you're impacting our state, and that's the great state of Arkansas.
We are listening to and interviewing the one of the commissioners of the MLK, Martin Luther King Jr. Civil Rights Commission. state of Arkansas, a state appointed position, and he's also running for State House seat, District 34. And he has come to us today to articulate some of the things that have happened, some of the things that are happening, and things that will be happening. And on that note, as we close out, what would you, as a person who is looking at people as potential voters, what would you say to them for them to capture your candidacy as a state representative?
Well, thank you, Dr. Adams. In closing, this is not my first time running. This is actually, they say three is a charm. Running in this district, running in this area, I must submit that the experience and knowledge that I bring to the table is far and beyond the norm and region. Understanding the makeup of our state, understanding the House representative out of 100 seats, identifying the 35 senators that make up the Senate, understanding the trifecta of our present governor. I really understand that over the last several years of my life, I've been very privileged to have had the opportunity to work in the framing. And I think that in this candidacy that we're approaching now, that is going to begin for May the 9th, up until May the 24th in our early voting process for our primary. I just want to bring some new clarity due to the fact that our district has been changed by number because of our last census, because of the redistricting. The landscape only has made some small, yet some significant impacts in our district. For those that are living throughout Mississippi County, I want you to realize that where they're in the south end of the state, there, the corner pocket of Crittenden County, where there was Turtle and Gilmore during the last census and the last redistricting, because of our numbers dropped significantly, several thousand numbers that impacted the actual population, both Crittenden County as well as Mississippi County and throughout various parts of our state, but mainly in Crittenden County, in Mississippi County, because of the numbers that that were lost. Those districts had to be actually redistricted, and as well as some of the area that the cities that were part in the past have been moved. Where Gilmore and Turtle, Dr. Adams, they were moved back into Crittenden County. They were moved back into Crittenden County, but where Birdsong, now for Mississippi County, the new landscape for District 34, which is now Birdsong, Frenchman, Joyner, Bassett, Wilson, Arkansas, Osceola, Arkansas, Luxor, Burnett, Victoria, Blytheville, Amarillo, and Gosnell. That is the new makeup of District 34. And for those that say, well, I was always in it, for those that are joining me for the first time, because there has not been a lot of information, for those that are in OCO, your former representative was Johnny Rye. Johnny Rye, because of the redistricting of the new redistricting, no, Johnny Rye is no longer a part of that district. We are not running against Johnny Rye. Johnny Rye is not a candidate no longer for the district, because District 34 has now been carved with 90% of the district now consists of Mississippi County only. So for those that are in the Johnny Rye district, you are now included in District 34. And for those that are in Blytheville, those that are watching me, that's from the Gulf Link, they're in the River Manor area, from the Briarcrest, they're in Osceola, your entire area, all the way back to the country club, you are now part of the district. For you that are in Blytheville, Arkansas, from the north side of Franklin, you are now embraced, going back to Yarborough, there to the country club area, all the way back to Gosnell, Arkansas. You are now included because it was broken into two parts, but now you are presently part of District 34. So for you that have not seen me in your neighborhood voting with my canvassing for the last 2 terms, that is because you were not part of the district. But guess what? I'm coming to you. You should see me, you should see my team knocking on your door. We should be putting material out. I want to say hi for those that are in the area. Got a chance with Team 34 this weekend. We were able to put out literature as well as canvas, Dr. Adams, and I must admit, thanks to the love that was shown to me. Thank you. A lot of horns was blowing. People got out of their cars. Some hugged me. Was glad to see them. I want to say again, thank you for giving me an opportunity. I'm looking forward to serving you. And because this is our first time, I'm looking forward to being back here on your show, Dr. Adams, sharing some things that we have in store for District 34. May God bless you.
Thank you. You have been listening to Crossroads, where North and South meets East and West. Thank you so very much. I want to let you know whatever you vividly imagine, ardently desire, and enthusiastically act upon must inevitably come to pass. A quote from Mr. Paul J. Meyer. God bless you.